Mayra Flores, who is the young Republican Latina woman who just flipped Texas 34 red. This is a Texas border district that had been Democrat controlled for about 100 years. And she just won. Elon Musk, who is a recent Texas transplant, he actually voted for her. And she did an interview on Fox explaining why she thinks she won.
Mayra, President Biden won your district by 13 points in 2020. Your husband is a border agent. We talk about the wide open border all the time. Is this the main issue for the Hispanic voter? What can you tell us about the Hispanic voter and what you're expecting in terms of votes come November?
Well, the main issue is inflation. It's the cost of living. Everyone is extremely pissed off, angry at the Biden administration because of the increase of gasoline, of groceries, of medication. That is hurting them tremendously, not only here in South Texas, but in the entire country. And of course, the border crisis is something that we see here right behind our backyards. It's not something that we need to be told by the news. It's something that we're seeing here every single day. And me, that I came here when I was 6 years old, I was blessed to come here legally, but I don't want my experience to be a rare experience. I want more children like myself to be able to come here to the United States legally as well. And the Biden administration's policies are only hurting immigrants, hurting the American people. And because of him, we have an increase of child trafficking in this country. And this is all on the Biden administration and Vicente Gonzalez, who's part of the problem as well here in South Texas.
Her name, by the way, is Mayra, not Maya. So I apologize because I think she's going to be a huge political star. And what's she basically saying? A district that went to Biden, people are upset about the money situation. People are upset about the economic situation. Of course, they're also upset about the border situation over there. They're watching, transients and all sorts of illegals just jump over the border, just flood through the border and take over their cities. And then God only knows where they go throughout the country. But the point is that election, I think, is going to be a real bellwether for what should happen in these midterms, that enough people are just like, you know what, maybe the Republicans aren't all racist. Maybe they're not all white supremacists. Maybe they're not all homophobes and bigots, and they just don't really want the government to do that much. And gosh darn it, the government hasn't done a lot of things well over the last couple of years, and I'm going to vote differently. I'm going to vote for that white supremacist Republican Party. So, of course, the Democrats see this coming. So they need the virus. And why would they need the virus? Because the virus, of course, gets them to mail in ballots. Just listen to Joseph R. Biden back in 2020.
It was a lesson in voting amid a virus. Long lines and 2.5-hour waits in some places, voters and poll workers wearing masks and protective gear with plexiglass between them.
I don't think people should be voting today. People dying.
Democrats want states to expand early absentee and mail-in voting.
Have all the experts, both political parties and academia, laying out what it would take to have voting by mail. I'd much prefer to have in-person voting.
But most Republicans, including President Trump, don't like the idea.
No, it shouldn't be mailed in. You should vote at the booth, and you should have voter ID.
Crazy. Voter ID, actually showing your identification when you vote. Something I did not have to do when I lived in the dystopian nightmare of California. I actually showed my ID. I pulled out my ID to show it to the guy, and he kind of freaked out. Like, no, we don't have to know that. All you have to say is a name and an address. So if you know your neighbor's address, you can vote as your neighbor. On top of the fact that Michael here, who now lives in the free state of Florida, and he's got a job and the whole thing, he got a mail-in ballot for the California election just a couple weeks ago, while he lives in Miami. You see what's going on here? So the more that they can push you to mail-in ballots, the more that shenanigans can happen and all of those things. I'm not saying that things are fully rigged. I'm just saying you can sort of see the pieces, right? It's just about seeing the pieces that are kind of floating around right in front of you, and that we should be doing things to secure our elections.